get what a motor is and what a brick is. Because those are the basic things we'll be working with today. Okay?
What are you doing?
So there's also some more parts to the Lego robot. So does anyone know our 5 senses? What are our 5 senses? Can anyone tell me?
Oh, I know all of it.
What are the 5 senses?
Right here.
Can you tell me what sight? Okay. Anyone else know any other senses? Yeah? Hearing, exactly. Yeah? Smell, exactly. Yeah? Yeah, that's one of the senses. That's like what the motor does. Yeah? You know what? Feel? Yeah, exactly. Touch. And then we have one more. Yeah, we had sight. Yeah. So we have sight, smell, hearing, and touch. We have taste. But so similar to what we have, robots also have ways to sense what they're around.
Could everyone please pay attention because this part is really important that you guys all know. You guys all know what all different parts do.
Hey guys, can you pay attention?
Elias.
Oh, thanks.
Does anyone want to look at the work that hasn't seen it? So can you guys keep passing around?
So what they connect to these ports right here. You connect a wire and you connect to the motor, and that's how you get it. So yeah, so we have our 5 senses for humans. But robots also have some sort of senses that they use to sense their surroundings so they can move around. So, yeah.
I know some senses. So when they touch something, that's when they sense, or when it's near, they could sense it and go another direction.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, our first sensor can be our touch sensor.
Yes.
So our touch sensor, what it does is, when you touch it, it does something. So when you touch it, the robot can stop. Or when you touch it, the robot can turn. And it can do different things like that. So it responds to your touch. So what it does is when you push it down, it sends a command to the brick, and then the brick can tell the robot to do other things when it's touched. Okay? So that's similar to our sense of touch, because when someone touches us, we know to like look at them, or we know how to do different things after we're touched. So the next sensor will be our ultrasonic sensor. So what does this look like? What does this look like? Yeah, exactly. So it looks like 2 eyes, except that's kind of confusing. Because what this does is, yeah.
I know what they do.
What do they do?
So they sense from like, it looks like the eyes, but they actually work like it because from distance, when it gets close to something, it moves the other direction. It doesn't have to hit it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So does anyone know how bats see things?
Oh, that just seems like that
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these ultrasonic sensors do like something really similar. So they also send out a really high-pitched sound that humans can't hear, and then when it bounces off something and comes back, it times how long it takes for that to happen, and then it can figure out how far something is.
Yeah. So everyone knows how echolocation works, right? Cool. So basically what this does, what were you going to say? Were you going to say something? No? Okay. So what it does is it sends out sounds, and by the way that it receives the sounds back, it can see how far it is from something. So imagine like when you shout. You can sort of tell how big a room is when you shout, right? Kind of like that. So we kind of have our own sense of echolocation. But that's what bats use to see. They send a sound out to see how big something is. And that's sort of similar to what the ultrasonic sensor is. It sends out, let's say it's this close to the wall, it sends out something from here to the wall to see how far it is. And it can tell how far it is away from the wall. Okay? So here.
So we have a new team member here that just came. So we'd like to introduce yourself.
My name's Sunny. I'm part of Robotics.
So it's S-A-M-I-H. So it's true, and we're all 5 letters. Yeah. So, okay. So we covered the sense of touch, right? And we have the sense of hearing. So what's the sensor for touch? What's that called? That's kind of easy. Does anyone know? What's the sensor for touch?
A sensor for touch?
The thing you pass around. What's it called?
I haven't been able to.
It's just a touch sensor, right? And anyone know what the hearing sensor is that look like eyes? What's it called?
The ultrasonic.
Exactly. Ultrasonic sensor, okay? Yeah.
I noticed that all of these have.
Yeah, okay. So how you connect the motors and the sensors, so how you connect the motors and sensors to the brick is using wire. So the wire goes into the brick from one side over here, and it goes into the sensor from the other side. And that's how the brick communicates with all the sensors and motors.
So here's some wires. They basically just plug into the things.
Yeah. And we'll show you how they connect later
Well,
after
it's
you guys
not
do it.
random. They're going specific places.
Exactly.
Not random.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Each of the wires connects specifically to one other sensor. So the next one is sort of how the robot senses color. And anyone have any idea what that would be?
Or what it would be called.
Yeah, what that would be called? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Similar to the eye. So it's called a color sensor. And what the color sensor? Well, do you want to explain what the color
So
sensor is?
basically, what the color sensor does is it shines out a light. So the color sensor, it shines out a light, and then it based on the amount of light that reflects off the object, it determines what color it is. So it can tell something like red or black or white or green, or it can determine whatever color something is. And it kind of looks like the eyes, but kind of different. And the way it works is the light underneath it shines out a light, and then when it bounces back, it determines what color it is.
So even though that ultrasonic sensor might look like eyes, the real eye of the robot is the color sensor. Because you can see the difference between different colors. And that's really important because when you want to see if something's a certain color, then you can use the color sensor to see that. Okay? Alright. So the last sensor is kind of interesting. So I know someone said a sense was like movement, kind of. So this is something that helps with movement. And it's called the gyrosensor. Have you guys learned about angles in math?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a cute angle. It's like a
So everyone know what an acute angle is? An obtuse? And a right angle? What's a right angle? How many degrees is that?
90 degrees.
Exactly, a 90-degree angle, okay?
Yeah.
So what a gyrosensor does is it detects how far something is turning based on the angle. So if let's say something starts at 0 degrees, right? Where's 90 degrees? The owl, right? So it means it goes all the way to here. So a gyrosensor can tell the robot to turn exactly 90 degrees. So you can program that. Yeah. Go ahead.
So for example, if I want to turn and look this way, right? And I can turn this way, and then when I know I turned like exactly 90 degrees, then I can tell my body to stop, right? So like this gyrosensor can tell how far something the robot has moved or turned, and then it can tell the robot to like stop or keep turning or do something else.
Yeah.
At the end, will you put all of those parts and make
Yeah, exactly. So all of these parts are needed to make a robot because the robot needs to know how to sense different colors, how much to turn, and how to move, right? So all these sensors are used when we make our actual robot. So that's what it's really important. It's like the basic for learning these robots. Yeah.
You have to program it with a computer. There's this app that you can't just program it with the brain and the
Exactly.
Legos.
Yeah.
You need something to control it like a controller.
Yeah, so we'll be going, so there's actually two ways to program it. There's one on the brick, where it's sort of basic programming. You can tell it to move different ways. But if you want to do more complex programming, it's on the laptop. And we'll be showing you a little bit of that this time. But in a future session, we'll go over that too, okay?
There's also an app that you can use on your device, and then it's also like the computer version, except it's a little bit more simple.
So you can program from your laptop, from your phone, or even from the brick. And that's a gyrosensor.
That's a gyrosensor.
Okay, so does everyone have any questions about sensors or motors or bricks or whatever we covered so far?
And there's a lot of other sensors too, but these are the ones that are mostly used because they can be used for the most different things and they're very useful. Yeah.
I have a robot at my house that's made out of Legos, and it uses a gyro sensor. I have a light sensor.
Okay, yeah. So on the robots that a lot of teams use, like a lot of them use gyro sensors and color sensors, so they're really, really useful.
The gyro sensor? Yeah.
No,
Oh, the brick? Yeah. Yeah, so wait, what's your name? Eddie? So Eddie had a good question here. So he asked on the brick, what are the buttons used for? So on the brick, what it allows you to do is it allows you to play different programs. So these buttons are used to scroll through the programs, and you can also go to a different section and select something, so you can program on this. And also what it allows you to do is to see all the different motors and what's connected to this. So you can tell what the UV3 brick is actually connected to. So let's say you have a motor connected to it and you have some sensors, you can tell on here what it's connected to, and then you can program them on here too, okay? Any other questions about anything we've covered so far? Yeah, okay. So we'll move on. Okay. So everyone knows what Legos are, right?
Yes.
So you guys have seen Lego bricks before, right? And you've all probably played with them. But so these Legos are sort of different. As you can see, yeah, they're called Lego Technic. Exactly. So they look like this. They have a bunch of holes which you can put pegs in to connect other pieces. Yeah. So the pegs look like this. So I'll pass them around so you guys can see how they connect.
I know how they connect.
You can pass them.
So for example, you see these holes here? So basically what you can do is you can stick the circle part of this into the hole, and then you can attach something else onto this. So for example, I can connect this piece to it like this, right? And there's a lot of pegs and a lot of different ways to connect things, and there's also a lot of different pieces, right? So for example, this one's straight, this one's curved, and then like this is an L, right? So there's a lot of different types of pieces that can be used in very different ways.
So you guys can pass this around, and then you can take out the pegs and put them in different holes, just so you see like how it fits. Yeah. Oh really? That's cool. Yeah. So Lego actually sells different sets which are made out of Technic, and this is one of them called Mindstorms, and you can use this to build a boat. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you can use it to build anything, just like a yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so that's what we do. Yeah. Do you have a question? Yeah.
I use a lot of the techniques.
You do?
I use a lot of like the robot, and I have like a wheel set.
Oh, nice. So we'll be building a robot.
I want to retire here.
So here, why don't you pass another one? So there's different types of pegs and different types of beams like this. It's not always straight. There's also L's and different things like that. So you can build different structures out of it. So yeah.
You can pass this around, right? You can just take out these pegs and move like different holes.
Should we do it? I don't think we like. So I really what? We have so good program. Okay. All right. So everyone. So yeah. Do you have a question? Yeah. Okay. So that's Ted. What's your name? Danny. So Danny had a good question. So he asked, when you connect a peg to something and you attach something else to it, can you rotate it?
Yes.
So let's see. Let's test that out. So I connected this to a peg to something else. Can you rotate it?
Yes.
Yeah, you can rotate it. So the only way it won't rotate is if you add another peg. So that's one of the principles of design. You need to have two different connection points for it to not rotate. Okay? If you have one connection, then it will rotate.
Yes.
But if you have two, I'm adding one here and one here, right? If you add two,
Connect them together and
then it won't rotate. Okay?
It's like a brain of light.
Yeah. So anyone have any other questions about any of the parts or any of the pieces that we talked about?
Or anything so far?
Yeah.
So you're going to build something and you're going to make that brick in. Do you have to put wire? You have to put all cement.
So one wire. So when you connect one wire, it connects to one sensor. So it's 1 to 1. So or one motor exactly. So these four in the back are used to connect to sensors 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is A through D. So you can connect these to different sensors or motors.
But what if we don't have sensors?
We have some sensors for you guys to
So,
play with.
but if your robot doesn't have these sensors, then you don't need anything to plug into it.
Yeah. So you can have a robot with only motors or only sensors.
I
But
wanted to move. And do
so exactly. So you need. So if you want to do your homework, you probably need a motor sensor. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So. Yeah. So we'll do that after we're done with this. In a few minutes, we'll start our activity. Okay. Okay. So the next thing, I know some of you are interested in programming, right? So what we're going to do in a future session is programming, but right now we'll give you an intro. So as you know, as we told you, you can program from the brick, from your computer, or even from your phone. So what the type of programming that we're going to use is called block programming. So in block programming, each block tells you something. So these green blocks tell you to move, and these orange blocks tells you to either stop or wait or things like that to help the program flow.
So for example, one block might be move forward, right?
No.
And then another block might be turn, another block might be stop, and there's like a lot of different blocks that you can use that each do different things.
And then in EV3 programming, there's two main types of blocks. One of them is a movement block, which moves the robot around using the motors, and another one is a flow block, which changes the flow of the program, like waiting or putting them.
So these things will help your robot move in the end. And once you attach all the motors and sensors, you can connect your laptop or your phone to the brick, and then you can tell the brick to tell everything else what to do. And that's how you control the robot.
Oh, so do not have a robot.
Yeah, if you have a program to do that, then you can send it to your brick. Exactly. So anyone have any questions about programming? We'll do a little bit more in depth later. Yeah. Oh really? Okay. So we'll be doing that a little bit later, and we'll show you. Okay. So the next thing you guys might not have heard of, it's called LDD. It's Lego Digital Designer. So anyone have any idea what this might do by the name?
It will fly. It will make
It could. Yeah. Do you have any? Exactly. So what's your name? Sophia. So what Sophia said here is that LDD will help you make a design. So this is really important because LDD lets you make the whole Lego robot before you actually build it. So you can actually make the whole thing on the computer before you start building in real life. And this will save a lot of time, as we'll see later. And we'll teach this in a future session.